Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Bruner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Well, let's just jump into now 7 fantasy football buy low candidates heading into week 5. That's important. They may be buy low candidates after this week, but some of these depend on the matchup ahead of them for this week, next week, yada, yada. So heading into the week 5 games, one of my favorite buy low candidates is Ramondre Stevenson. Does not matter your league type. I do like Ramondre Stevenson. Obviously, the New England Patriots have sucked through the first month of the season. I think their offense has had some moments where they have been all right. Offensive line still an issue. Mac Jones, inconsistent. He's had some good moments, some bad moments, and everything like that. But this past week, people were nervous. Ramondre Stevenson owners were nervous because we all got that notification on our phone that Ezekiel Elliott is going to see starter snaps today, per sources. Well, those starter snaps meant Zeke got 40% of the snaps. Ramondre still got 54% of the snaps. And I say that to say, in a week where it's supposed to be heavy Zeke, it was still heavy Ramondre. Like his role is safe. He's good. He has played the 8th most snaps per game among all running backs. Pretty good. He averages 19 looks per game, and looks is what I call carries plus targets. So 19 per game, very high usage. He also has 7 red zone carries to Zeke's 1. So, the talk was Ezekiel Elliott was going to be brought in to be the short yardage, the goal line guy. The data through 1 month does not suggest that. So high usage, great role, low production so far. He has 1 touchdown, I believe, so far this season. So brighter days ahead for Ramondre Stevenson. If everything stays the same, essentially, production is going to pick up and he's going to be better. So, yeah, I like Ramondre Stevenson as a buy low candidate. He is probably a high-end RB2 with upside, and I think you can get him for RB3 value right now, or low-end RB2. I think Ramondre Stevenson owners they're not happy. They're pretty upset, right? They had to draft him early. They're pretty upset. Another running back I am willing to buy low on right now is Aaron Jones. Obviously, follow the Packers very closely, Packers analyst, and we all believe Aaron Jones is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. One of the most talented running backs for sure. He is the most talented offensive player for the Packers, for sure. Not a question. His issue so far this year has been mostly his hamstring injury. Week 1, he finished as the RB1, but he left early with a hamstring injury. Missed week 2, missed week 3. Week 4, he was very much limited. I think most people would say he was limited because of his hamstring. He was mostly limited because the Packers didn't even try to establish the run. They didn't even attempt it. Just coaching malpractice on Matt LaFleur's part. We also know that the Packers often put A.J. Dillon in the red zone. Again, just coaching malpractice. Dillon sucks. Aaron Jones is smaller, but he's a better runner, harder runner, way more talented player. Eventually, water will find its level. Everything will regress to the mean. Aaron Jones is going to see more work. He's going to see a lot of work this week, I imagine. Playing on Monday Night Football against the Raiders. The Packers need to establish the run this week. They don't want Max Crosby to just tee off on the Packers' inexperienced second-year tackles, Zach Tom and Rasheed Walker. There's no reason for the Packers to just sit back there and let them tee off. So they're going to run the ball quite a bit. Aaron Jones is going to be a big part of that. He's going to be a big part of the receiving game as well, because Jordan Love, his best plays this year have been throws behind the line of scrimmage, mostly to Aaron Jones in that week 1 game. So yeah, he has to be a big part of the offense for the Packers to succeed going forward, and it's going to happen. So I think people are worried. I mean, he has 14 carries this year. I think you can get him at solid RB2, low-end RB2 value, and I think he's a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 most weeks. We will do one more running back, then we'll go to a quarterback. Another running back I really like, and I'll answer, Ben, your question after this as well. I like Josh Jacobs. The Raiders aren't interested in letting anybody else run the football. We saw this last year when he had, I believe, over 400 total touches. It was just insane. So far this year, he has a little over 87% of the team's rushing attempts. He also has 5+ targets in each of the past 3 games. So he's getting used as a receiver, which, you know, if you told me that a few years ago, I wouldn't have believed you, but he is. He is the RB14 so far. That's not terrible, right? It's not like he's irrelevant, but he was the RB3 last year, I believe. And people are upset because he's more of a RB2 right now, sort of inconsistent. Obviously, he had that super dud where he had negative rushing yards. I think you can get him at maybe RB2 value right now. And he is an RB1 for me, and he has top 5 potential the rest of the way for me. And this is, by the way, like I said, heading into week 5, the timing is pretty relevant here. This is probably the last time you're going to get Josh Jacobs at this value. He plays the Packers on Monday Night Football. Packers rank 30th in rushing yards allowed per game, 155.3. You can run on the Packers, and the Raiders are certainly going to try to do that. The Packers are also, what's the best way to describe it? Unbelievably unaware of running backs as receivers out of the backfield. We'll call it that way. So I think the 5+ targets might be more this week. I think he's going to be effective as a receiver as well. So I think a pretty good day is coming for Josh Jacobs. Again, I think I ranked him as RB3 for the week. And I'm looking to trade for him prior to that game, because afterwards, you're not going to get a good value on him anymore. Another buy low candidate at quarterback this time. We got Joe Burrow. This is an obvious buy low candidate. It's not a secret one. Everyone knows if you're looking to trade for Joe Burrow, you think he's going to improve, right? And it certainly seems like the only direction to go is up. That offensive line's bad. The way they're scheming offense up is bad. There's no 2 ways about it. They could be doing so much better with the players they have. They're just not doing it. They need to, and a big part of it's because Joe Burrow can't fucking move. However, Joe Burrow is going to get better. He has to. He absolutely has to. And this is truly just a gut call by low, right? The schedule coming up is going to get better. Let me bring up his specific games here. So he has Arizona, Seattle, bye week, 49ers, Buffalo, which doesn't look that scary, Texans, Baltimore, Steelers, Jaguars, Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs. And for whatever it's worth, the Bengals have the Chiefs number in the regular season. So that stretch, the end of the season, is going to be very good. It's a stretch where the Bengals know they have to play well to even have a chance to make the playoffs at this point. And 2 easy games and then a bye week. I think Joe Burrow is going to get quite a bit better. I think he's a guy you can absolutely go trade for. And there isn't much left to do with that. I mean, the team who has Joe Burrow right now, they had to use a high draft pick for him, right? He was drafted relatively early. So there's a good chance that team's struggling. And if that team has a 2-2, 1-3, God forbid, 0-4 record with Joe Burrow, and they're like, I just can't take Joe Burrow at this point anymore, you might be able to get him for very cheap. You may be able to get him as your quarterback too. And at that point, if you can just sit and wait with Joe Burrow, he's going to be a great candidate to pick up. Absolutely. Let's jump to Kelvin Ridley then. I have 3 more buy low guys, and then I'll quickly talk about 7 sell high candidates for this week. Kelvin Ridley, buy low. He started his return with a bang. Week 1 against the Colts. Wide receiver 6, very good. Then he's been bad, and people are starting to freak out a little bit. I understand, but he's still top 30 for targets. He's seeing the ball. He has 4 drops, which has contributed to him being wide receiver 37. That's not going to continue. He's not going to average a drop a week. It's going to get better. But his matchups coming up are great. This week he plays Buffalo Bills. Buffalo obviously traveling to London, also have to adjust without Tre'Davious White being in the lineup now. So last week he faced a good corner in Atlanta or against Atlanta. This week he is against a Tre'Davious White-less Buffalo team. So I like it. And then he places the Colts again, who he destroyed in week 1. So I think Kelvin Ridley gets back on track. I think he's a good buy low candidate. Definitely trust it. Chris Olave is another buy low guy. His ADP was wide receiver 12. Obviously, on the show, we said we didn't like it, that he was getting overdrafted. Obviously, most people didn't listen, right? Not everybody listens to this show. Kind of crazy. So the people who drafted him as wide receiver 12 got to be pissed, right? They got to be freaking out. He's just not doing the job. He is wide receiver 27. That's not terrible. But if you drafted him as a wide receiver 1 or, just wide receiver 12 overall, you're angry. You may not have the best team. Your record may not be that good, and you may be very willing to sell. So I would love to get Chris Olave. 306 receiving yards. That's not that bad. Also, Alvin Kamara just came back. Alvin Kamara being back is going to improve the offense. I don't love Alvin Kamara as a fantasy player, but it does help the Saints offense. If the Saints are in scoring position more often, then Chris Olave is going to have a higher probability to score a touchdown. I believe 1 touchdown to his name so far this year. Yes, 1 touchdown. So his fantasy value is going to go up. Also, he has the 4th most air yards in the NFL this year, 536. Like last week, Derek Carr just kept missing them. So the potential is there. The opportunity is there. It's just a, Craigslist misconnection situation. Like the ship's passing in the night. The ball needs to get into Chris Olave's hands. The play is there to be made, and it's just not connecting. But at some point, it's going to connect. At some point, the play is going to be made, and Chris Olave is going to be great. The potential for him to be a wide receiver 1 is already there. Just make the play. Finish the play. And it's going to happen. And with some decent matchups coming up, you like that as well. Final buy low candidate. Then we'll jump back into the chat for some questions. Darren Waller. And again, like Darren Waller is frustrating the hell out of people. It's doom and gloom. I get it. However, there's the reason for most people are upset by it is because we've seen the Giants so much this year in primetime games. And the Giants have gotten their dick kicked in. They've been terrible. And Darren Waller has been terrible too. He's been open a few times and the ball just didn't go his way. A lot of other times he's disappearing. And he's disappearing because he's been asked to chip at the line of scrimmage every single time because their tackles are so goddamn terrible. However, when Saquon Barkley comes back, I don't think it's going to be this week, but there is a chance. Some people are expecting it this week. It's either this week or next week, I would say. But we've seen how much the presence of Saquon Barkley on the field for the Giants completely improves their offense. And if Saquon Barkley's back, the offense is improved and they can run the ball. They have some sort of respect from the defense in the running game. That pass rush is going to slow down. That's going to help the tackles out. Daniel Jones isn't going to be on his back immediately. Darren Waller won't have to chip at the beginning of his routes, and then he's going to be good, right? That improves his probability to make plays, to get fantasy points, yada, yada, yada. However, even if we just took the terrible Giants offense as it is right now, Darren Waller is tight end 12. We're acting like he is terrible. Yet there's tight ends that are like tight end 25, like Dalton Kincaid. What is he, like tight end 25, tight end 30? And people are like, he's great. Like, I don't get it. He's tight end 12. Relax. Don't tell the Darren Waller owner this, but he's tight end 12. He's also 9th in targets amongst tight ends. Pretty good. So he is getting used. He is also 7th among air yards for tight ends. So he's getting targeted. The potential for yards is there. Again, just finish the play. Even in this terrible Giants offense as it stands right now, the potential is there for him to be a clear and obvious tight end one if the play just gets made. But I think the offense is going to improve. So if we're taking his value and even growing it, he's going to be great. I think you can absolutely buy Darren Waller right now. I think he's a great buy low candidate. Absolutely go get him.